Everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I'm up at our cottage enjoying the good weather and reflecting on 21 years of self-employment. Now, I had jobs or businesses, I should say, in high school where I would mow lawns and made a simple amount of money, but owning companies after university, it's 21 years coming up this December. I've had a lot of people recently ask me about the process that I went through when I decided to jump from being an employee to being a business owner. Truthfully, for me, it was out of frustration. I was working at a utility company and really trying to kill it in my job. And the challenging part in the industry I was in was going the extra mile and working extra hard didn't result in any additional compensation, any acknowledgement. And in fact, I was warned to kind of calm it down a little bit because I was making other people uncomfortable with my aspirations. And so after 6 months of working with the firm, I got fed up, and 126 on a Friday, I quit and started what was to become Think Tank Communications. I had been miserable for probably 3 or 4 of the 6 months. Knowing that I didn't have to go back to that job felt like winning the lottery. And so I went home and told my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and I remember the look of concern on her face, soon to be a future lawyer, but currently a banker. Quitting a well-paying job that has, upward mobility was a little bit of a crazy decision, but I knew that I needed to take a shot at it, and worst case scenario would be I would have to find a shitty job that I didn't like, which is where I was. I was already theoretically in my worst case scenario. What was weird on the following Monday is normally I'd get up, have breakfast, put on my uniform and go to work, but I didn't have to do any of that. My girlfriend went to her university classes and I was laying on the couch in my underwear watching CNN thinking, well, I better figure out what I'm going to do. That was the challenging part, is I didn't know what I was leaving to go towards. I just knew I was leaving. And in hindsight, it was probably short-sighted, but for me, I'm somebody that's driven by fear, and I almost have to throw myself in the deep end in order to swim well. And so I remember laying on the couch watching CNN, and there was a group of young people that had been brought together to talk, I think, about the dot-com bubble. And they were a think tank. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Think tank. Yeah, I'll go with that. That's a good company name. Think Tank Technologies, Think Tank Ventures, Think Tank Communications. Yeah, I'll use Think Tank Communications. Long story short, I started to build a company around the idea of the skill set I had. And at that time, I didn't really have skills. I mean, I could sell, but the only skill I really came out of a general arts degree with was I learned how to learn really quickly. I learned how to convey messaging pretty well, and I knew how to research. Out of that was born Think Tank Communications, which was a market research firm for municipalities, business improvement areas, and other industry groups to understand where opportunities lay for themselves and for their members. That company I ended up having for 7 years. I made a considerable amount of money on it, but that first year was really slim. I made good money, but I was in a state of terror for 12 months. For those of you that might be considering self-employment right now, a couple of ideas I have for you to have a smoother ride than I did is, number one, know why you're leaving. And so I was just frustrated, but I actually needed to realize, I guess, that being an employee wasn't really what I was made to be. I aspired to be entrepreneurial, and so that was the tribe I needed to be part of. Number two, know what you're going to do when you jump. I mean, I jumped out not knowing what the hell I was doing. That worked for me because I like fear to be a driver, but for a lot of people, it immobilizes them. So don't get yourself into even more trouble by not knowing, how you're going to pay your bills. Number three, in hindsight, is I would have had 6 months of living expenses saved up to cover the transition. I didn't have that. That forced me to hustle 18 hours a day to get contracts. But for a lot of people who might not work well under pressure, make sure that you have a bit of a nest that you can work off of. Number four, prepare to say goodbye to most of the people in your life. Everybody, aside from my dad, thought it was a bad idea for me to leave a job that most people really would have considered a dream job to go start a business. They thought I was sucker. I had lost my mind. Of course, a year later, they all told me they knew I could do it and all the bullshit that comes along with that. But about 90% of the people in my life I had to leave behind because what I was looking to build, they weren't in support of. And I think the fifth thing, kind of building on the previous point, is who you spend time with that first initial year will have an enormous impact on if you're going to be successful or not. I used to work with a lot of startups. I don't anymore. But as a startup myself, I relied on the kindness of a lot of mentors to teach me how to do things. Wendy Snelling, Carolyn Grover, who was Carolyn Cardone at the time, were two women in Kamloops who made a lot of time for me to bounce ideas off of them. Robert Fine, the economic developer of Kelowna, was kind of a big mentor. Alvin Kahn, Willie Carter. There's literally hundreds of people that helped me get to where I was even the first 2 years, even the first year. They kept my head above water and kept on kind of pumping my tires for me. And you need to have those people in place because the majority of your people now are not going to think it's a good idea. And their fear for what you're doing is their fear for stability. They need you to not mess things around so that they don't feel like their life just because of your decisions. So I hope that's helpful. There's a lot of emotional and mental stuff that goes into doing it properly. And that first year is the make or break. If you can get through 12 months, you will be looking back in 21 years at what you built. Anyway, until the next video, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe. Click the button to let you know when more videos like this come out. Maybe give it a thumbs up. And remember, gladiators eat first. Go get after it. If you're going to come to the dark side, come to the dark side.
We would be honored if you would join us.
But think about it a little bit more than I did. Don't wait too long, but when you jump, the net appears. All the best. See you next time.